Good morning, Malacañang Press Corps. Welcome sa press briefing ni Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Morning, Malacañang Press Corps. Our guest for today is the 48th Solicitor General of the Republic of the Philippines. He served as Undersecretary of the Department of Justice from 2001 to 2004, where he was in charge of the National Bureau of Investigation, the Witness Protection, Security and Benefits Program, Office of the Government Corporate Counsel, DOJ National Task Force on Terrorism and Internal Security, and DOJ Task Force on Financial Fraud and Money Laundering. He also served as Executive Director of the Dangerous Drugs Board in 2004. He finished law in the Ateneo and passed the bar in 1973 with a 100% rating in criminal law. Solicitor Calida is a gun enthusiast, an accomplished sharpshooter with numerous shooting titles, and so forth and so on. Ladies and gentlemen of the Malacañang Press Corps, let us give a warm welcome. No, it's not a warm. It's just an interesting aspect. Please welcome Solicitor General Jose Calida. Sir.
Thank you for the introduction, Secretary Ernie. Ernie and I go way long back. We are both from Davao City, and at one point in our college life, we were classmates in some subjects at the Ateneo de Davao. But anyway, thank you for inviting me, and good morning to you. I was asked to give you some highlights of what we accomplished at the Office of the Solicitor General. For your information, the Office of the Solicitor General, under the law, is that we are the principal law office of the Republic of the Philippines, including all its departments, bureaus, agencies, and to summarize it, my office and I am the Republic's defender, and at the same time also the People's Tribune. The People's Tribune was patterned after Rome, when the patricians and the plebeians, they often had clashes. And there was this tribune appointed to defend the rights of the plebes. And I have the discretion to decline appearing as counsel for a government agency if, in my opinion, the welfare of the people is at stake, and the public interest is that I should side with the people of the Philippines. Now, to go to our accomplishments, the biggest case that was decided during my watch was the West Philippine Sea case, in which we won by a unanimous decision. You're probably aware that in this case is the crowning glory of international law and the law of the seas, as well as the rule of law. Basically, the arbitral tribunal ruled that China has no legal basis to claim historic rights over resources in the sea waters of the so-called 9-dash line. But I will not dwell on that, because that is already a public knowledge. The second case that I personally handled was the Marcos burial case. This was my maiden appearance at the Supreme Court, and with a vote of 9, 5, and 1 abstention, the government won the case. Now, another case that we handled is the Aguinaldo versus the President Aquino case concerning the appointment of justices at the Sandigan Bayan. And we were able to win this case for government because the Judicial and Bar Council clustered certain nominees into six separate shortlists for the 6 vacancies of the Sandigan Bayan Associate. So the Supreme Court upheld the power of the President to appoint members of the judiciary, and is not shackled by the JBC's order of preference of the priorities of who will be appointed as justice of the Sandigan Bayan. Another case we are handling now is the Alliance for Family Foundation Philippines versus Dr. Garin. This is about the RH law. We filed a motion for reconsideration because the Supreme Court's Second Division issued a TRO claiming that certain contraceptive drugs and devices, including Implanon and Implanon NXT, which were registered and recertified, were abortifacients. Now, in our argument, we said that the registration and recertification of contraceptive drugs and devices involve the exercise of FDA, Food and Drug Administration's regulatory and administrative power, and therefore it does not require notice and hearing. So this is still to be decided by the Supreme Court. Now, I'll give you an example of a case in which I invoke the power of the tribune. This is the case of the Partido Demokratiko Pilipino, or PDP Laban, and Congressman Pantaleon Bebot Alvarez versus the COMELEC. The COMELEC, in its resolution number 10147, extended the period within which to file the statement of campaign of expenses, contribution, and expenses. I did not defend the COMELEC this time. I defended the petitioners because the COMELEC usurped legislative power when it issued this resolution, because the COMELEC cannot extend a deadline imposed by law. Again, this is still, the Supreme Court has not yet decided on this. And there's another interesting case concerning public enemy number 1. And I'm referring to Senator Leila de Lima versus Rodrigo Roa Duterte in the case for the issuance of a writ of habeas data. Again, I cannot yet argue the merits because this is still sub judice. And another example of my exercise of the tribune's power is when I offered the services of my office to represent as co-counsel the complainants against Senator de Lima before the Department of Justice during a preliminary investigation of the drug cases. And I did this because, in my opinion, this affects the welfare of the people as the ends of justice may require, and therefore I represented the people and not the senator. Okay? Now, there's another interesting case. This has lasted for 25 years. This is the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board and Secretary of Transportation versus Pantranco Employees Association and Pantranco Retrenched Employees Association. We did this because of the social justice requirement that we have to protect the rights of every individual, especially the poor. We sided in favor of the drivers who were illegally dismissed, and for 25 years they were fighting for their cause. So that is a preview of the cases that we are handling at the OSG. And our programs during my watch will be to improve the caliber and quality of our solicitors. And therefore, we have we have embarked in a campaign to lure the best and the brightest lawyers in the Philippines to join us. If you have friends who are valedictorians or top-notchers of the bar exams, please endorse them to us, because we will accelerate their entry from associate solicitor to 1 to associate solicitor 3. And we have capacity building seminars and conferences. We send our solicitors abroad to study the recent trends in law, especially now the arbitration law. And of course, our main mission here is to defend the Republic of the Philippines from its enemies, whether internal or external. So if you have any questions, I'm free to answer everyone.
Yes. Thank you, MPC. Joseph Morong, GMA7. Microphones. AC, please.
Hi, sir. Good morning. How are you?
Hi, good morning.
Sir, with regard to the relationship of the departments, executive, judicial, and legislative, what do you think is the judiciary's role with regard to the actions of the executive and the legislative branches?
Well, the Constitution allocates the powers to these three branches of government. The legislative government's purpose is to enact laws. The purpose of the judicial department is to interpret laws, and the function of the executive department is to execute and enforce laws.
Sir, the reason I asked is yesterday that the President seemed to suggest that with regard to martial law, if there is a stalemate between the legislative and the executive actions, sabi niya yesterday, it is the President who has the final say. Is this a correct interpretation of the Constitution?
Well, let me put it this way. The President has the power under the Constitution to declare martial law if there are certain conditions which are present at that particular time. Now, I think your point is just because the President was quoted as having said, if I decide to declare martial law. Is that your drift?
Sir, yesterday he said that should there be a stalemate, say for example, Congress says, okay, you can continue with the martial law, and Supreme Court says you cannot. The final say, because both branches cannot decide what, it is the President who will be, who will have the final say on the matter, meaning he is the final arbiter, not the Supreme Court.
Well, let me put it this way. There is a saying and motto that salus populi est suprema lex. The welfare of the people is the supreme law. In fact, during the 1986 EDSA revolution, if you notice, there was no martial law declared, but there was a change in government. It was an extra constitutional movement that changed the government. Why? Because probably during that time, there was really a need to do so. So we cannot put the president in a box and tell him, you only do these things. Because the president cares for the country, and if the country faces imminent danger and nobody is acting, then the welfare of the people is the supreme law.
So that means the president was correct in his interpretation.
This is my answer, not his answer.
Sir, in your interpretation as the Solgen, as the lawyer of the Republic,
Yes.
that is a correct interpretation, even if it's existing in the regime of the 1987 Constitution?
Well, as I said, there are certain conditions. If it is really necessary, the fate of our country hangs on the balance, and nobody moves under the Constitution. The president is the one who executes the law.
Marlon Ramos?
Good morning po, Soljan. So we may not be accused of misquoting or misreporting the president. I will just read the official transcript of his remarks yesterday. The president said, pagdating sa Supreme Court, sabi ng Supreme Court, it is baseless. It does not amount to any legal basis. Ay sabihin ng Congress, go ahead because it is the national security which is at stake here. Who decides now? Supreme Court sabi wag. Sabi ng Congress yes. Who decides? Eh siyempre yung president, so ako. I now can interpret the law itself and it is final. Is the president read the final interpretation?
Well, personally, I did not hear him say that, but if that is what he said, I will interpret it in this manner. The president cares so much for the future of the Philippines. That's why he put at stake his life, his honor, and the presidency itself. Because he will not allow, for example, the proliferation of drugs to destroy our youth. He will not allow lawlessness to rule our country. Now, if the other branches of the government will not help him, what will he do? Will he just wash his hands like Pontius Pilate? If you know him, he will act, and he will act for the greater interest of the Philippine people. That is my answer.
Sir, but can the president declare martial law besides the two requirements of the Constitution during invasion and rebellion?
That is what is placed in the textbook. But you know, there are certain situations, as I said, and these are hypothetical situations, when there is really a clear and present danger to our country, and nobody will help the president do his job as the father of the nation, then he will not allow his family, so to speak, us Filipinos, to suffer because of, how do you call this, the inability or unwillingness of certain functionaries to do what is right for the country.
So he can go beyond what is written in our Constitution, the 1987 Constitution.
Just like what Cory did. They did what is outside of the Constitution when they toppled Marcos.
Okay.
Thank you, Marlon. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines. To be followed by Henry Uri.
Hi, sir. Sir, just a follow-up. So even if the Supreme Court, for example, says that the president cannot do it, you will support the president's decision if he does decide to declare martial law?
Well, under the conditions that I mentioned, when it is already the life of the country that is at stake, the lives of the citizens of this country, the president will not stand by, just like Nero, and let Rome burn. That is his style of, our president is a political genius, actually.
But sir,
Sometimes what you hear from him is not really what he wants to communicate. So we have to read between the lines. But the bottom line here is, if this country is put in danger and nobody acts, he will act.
sir, following that logic, isn't the Supreme Court there also to help the president in the sense na it's not only one person deciding for the whole country? So you're telling us that depending on the conditions nga, but you're saying that only the president can determine kung ano yung conditions na yun. And if he says na those conditions make his decision to declare martial law valid, then he will still do it even if other branches say that those reasons are not valid.
Remember, he said, if I want to. It doesn't mean he will do it. But he can do it if he wants to. Okay? So there has to be a set of circumstances that will lead a president, not necessarily the President Duterte, a president to do something for his country when it is already on the throes of danger. In other words, somebody has to be responsible. If other people will not take responsibility, somebody has to stand for the Philippines.
Okay, Salarina, Henry, and Pia. Salarina muna.
Can I have a water break, please?
Microphone.
Yeah. Your
Microphone, please. Yeah, thank you.
Good morning, sir. Sir, you have mentioned, I'm here, sir. Sir,
okay.
sir, you have mentioned that you have cited the incident in 1986 wherein the welfare of the people is the supreme law. That's what you're saying. So when the president so decides that he will declare martial law despite the ruling of the court that it's unconstitutional, you're mentioning some conditions. During that period, there was this people power. So would there be a need for a people power first before the president would not obey the decision of the Supreme Court?
Well, there's a saying, different folks, different strokes. It depends, again, on the condition when the president will have to make a decision. So I cannot imagine the circumstances now because there may be different circumstances. But the principle here is somebody has to take care of the welfare of this country.
But as a lawyer, sir, currently, would you say that it's really the Supreme Court which is the final arbiter?
Yes, under the Constitution, it has the power to interpret laws.
Okay, Henry Yuri.
Secretary, good morning. Para ho sa mga nakikinig at nanonood, para eksakto na lang ho yung inyong paliwanag. Ano yung mga bagay, ano yung mga pangyayari na maaring maglagay sa ating Pangulo at magbigay ng kapangyarihan sa kanya para magdeklara ho ng martial law?
Well, under the Constitution, there are two situations. Invasion and rebellion, when the public safety requires it, he can impose martial law. In fact, the president has already declared a state of lawlessness because of the bombings in Davao City and Mindanao, etc. So, your question is, what will, can you please, what will impel him to make that decision?
What are those circumstances that might prompt the president to declare martial law?
Well, I cannot really exactly describe the exact scenario, but it's something like this. When the country is in great danger, when the youth of this country is also in great danger, and there is criminality that that cannot be stopped anymore, then probably somebody has to make a decision. And being the father of this nation, he will not allow his family, meaning us, to suffer needlessly. Something has to be done, and he will do it.
Given the circumstances, Soldier, ito hong sa lumalalang problema sa illegal drugs, may nahuli na namang umano'y supplier ni Kerwin sa Iligan. At ito'y talagang malaki pong isda ito, sabi ng PNP. Pagkatapos yun, kasunod dito, nung pagkakahuli ng mga illegal drug trader doon sa San Juan, na umabot po, kung di ako nagkakamali, sa 6 na bilyong halaga ng shabu. Yun hong nakumpiska ron. Ito ba mga ganitong pangyayari ay posible nang maging daan para gamiting nasisira na ang bansa, lalo na ang kinabukasan ng ating mga kabataan sa problema natin sa illegal drugs at kinakailangan na pong magdeklara ng martial law ang Pangulo?
I think you answered your question.
No, but we want your answer, Surgeon, with all due respect.
Well, as I said, it is the personal judgment of the president when the time comes. So I cannot anticipate what will be his judgment because he said, if I want to declare martial law. He did not say, I will surely declare martial law. In fact, he said he's not, kalokohan niyang martial law, di ba?
Okay, thank you,
But
Henry.
there will be serious situations maybe which might lead to that, no? But of course, I cannot answer for him.
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Pia Rañada, to be followed by Dexter, then Christine Sabilio.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, if either of the two branches, or Congress or Supreme Court, decide to challenge the martial law declaration, is it right for the President to have the sole judgment in saying that that's them being uncooperative, or can he not entertain the idea that they have basis for challenging the martial law declaration?
Well, again, the question is hypothetical, and therefore I cannot make a categorical answer on that, no? I do not know how the Congress will react. They may support the President, for all we know.
Yes, sir, but the President himself floated this scenario. So I'm just asking you, based on his scenario that he himself floated, is it right for him to be given the sole authority to decide if this is them being uncooperative simply, or them having basis for challenging his declaration?
Well, for all we know, the Congress may see the light and support him. So under that scenario, we have no problem.
Thank you, Pia.
Sir, just to follow up, sir, the President also expressed qualms about constitutional provisions safeguarding the public against abuse of martial law. For example, the limitation of 60, the extension of 60 days can only be done with the approval of Congress, and for any citizen to challenge the legal basis of the martial law declaration to the Supreme Court. He said he has qualms about these provisions. Do you agree with him that these provisions should be taken out if the Constitution is amended, and why, sir?
Well, we are talking here of emergency, aren't we? We are talking here about the possible destruction of our youth and our country. Now, you dilly-dally for 60 days? You are unmindful of the emergency if you do that.
Okay. Thank you, Pia. Dexter. DZMM.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Soljan. Soljan, sa mga nakalipas na pronouncement ng Pangulo, kaugnay nga sa martial law pa rin, hindi kaya binabrot ng Pangulo yung issue para mapag-usapan at parang binabanggit niya kasi lumalabas na may mga butas doon sa batas, sa konstitusyon. Hindi kaya binabanggit niya na dapat itong maamyandahan?
Well, that is a possibility. Actually, as I said earlier, the president is a political genius. Sometimes his statements are so deep that you may misinterpret what he's really saying. But, you know, somebody said the mouth is also a weapon of mass destruction. No? So probably he's just messaging it so that people will get the idea and agree with him. In fact, look at what he has done. He was criticized as not being a polished diplomat. But look what he has done. He was able to get about 1 trillion ODA. Do you know of any previous presidents who did that? By bad-mouthing those who criticized our president and insulted him and the sovereignty of the Filipino people. So, he's a maverick, and you cannot put him in a box. But we should judge the results of what he's saying.
So there is a possibility, pag doon sa sinusulong niyang federalism, ay maaring mabago yung provision kaugnay sa pagdedeklara ng martial law. Would you?
Well, anything is possible, as I said.
Last point, Soljan. Nabanggit niyo po yung pag-hire ng mga bagong staff or mga associate Soljan. Kumusta po yung bilang ng mga staff or mga associate Soljans natin sa buong bansa? Sapat po ba ito at kailangan nating mag-hire ngayon at tawag doon yung promotion nila agad-agad sa associate 3?
Yes, right now we are considered to be the biggest law firm in the Philippines. But considering also the cases that are filed in court every day, there's really a need to increase our manpower. And we intend to hire the best and the brightest lawyers in the country.
Do you have a target, sir, for?
Well, I have 6 years as my tenure in the office. So hopefully within my term, I will be able to increase not only the number but the quality of our legal services.
By gaano kadami, sir, or ilang porsyento?
Under the natural law, we should have at least 30 assistant solicitor generals. Right now, we have 24. So we are still short of the minimum number of assistant solicitor generals.
Thank you, Dexter. Christine Sabilio, Inquirer Online, to be followed by Raymond Tinasa and then Joseph Morong.
Sir, just going back to martial, I'm just trying to understand your explanation. You said the president can impose martial law even if the Supreme Court decides it is not okay. The example you gave was extra-legal or beyond the Constitution already, the EDSA people power, which is actually the overturning or, as you said, the change in government. But the scenarios you said when one of my fellow reporters asked what kind of scenario would allow that was more on criminality or danger against the youth. My question is, what would be the use of the constitutional provision on martial law if the president can go beyond that? Because under the Constitution, I'm not a lawyer, but just my simple understanding is that the Constitution only allows it if there's invasion or rebellion, and it's not an or when public safety requires it, but just the two. Do you think your example is equal to the example of the EDSA people power? And it's very difficult for me to imagine how that would be for the president to decide that, even if, for example, the Supreme Court would not allow it.
We are talking here of certain conditions which cannot be predicted. However, it must be very extreme. In other words, for example, you're aware of the plot to oust the president. What if they will bomb Malacañang? They will put bombs in our malls, to create trouble, and there will be again, the drug lords will hire assassins to kill him, and some parties might be in cahoots with this plot. In other words, there's already a breakdown of law and order. And nobody is acting, or they are afraid to act. Somebody has to act, and it should be the president.
Thank you, Christine. Raymond Tinasa.
Sir, magandang hapon po. Sir, mag-senaryo lamang. Kasi ang tanging makapagdeklara ng martial law ay presidente, hindi Supreme Court or Kongreso. So mauuna yung premise na magdeklara siya.
Correct.
So to follow na lang kung merong mag-question. So ano yung maging senaryo kung after niya mag-declare, consumed na, in-execute na yung martial law? Ano yung magiging senaryo kung sabihin ng Supreme Court ngayon na illegal yan, unconstitutional? So will you advise the President to push through with his declaration or withdraw?
We will decide when we reach that point.
So sir, pagka yung halimbawa yung nagdeklara na yung Pangulo ng martial law, so ano yung magiging maaari niyang gawin? Abnormal situation na martial law na Ano yung maaari niyang gawin doon sa Supreme Court at sa Kongreso? Kasi hawak na yung military. The Supreme Court has no military, has no police. So what can he do na na maaring makabaliwala na doon sa kapangyarihan ng Supreme Court o ng Kongreso? Kasi siya na yung presidente, the sole decision maker ng martial law and executioner.
First of all, I will defend his position before the Supreme Court. And hopefully they will agree with us.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, MPC. May I remind you, we still have Presidential Spokesperson, Joseph Morong, and then Marlon.
Oh. I think you asked the hardest questions
Sir?
sa lahat ng mga guests dito.
Sir, can President Duterte suspend the 1987 Constitution?
Can he suspend? Under normal circumstances, no.
Under abnormal circumstances.
Then I will answer you abnormally also.
No, because I don't know if you're aware of the column of the former Chief Justice, Panganiban. He did say that that is an option that remains for the President.
Actually, in every country, that is an option.
It
Look
is
at
an
America.
option. He can suspend it, in short.
You know, look at so in the realm of possibility, anything is possible. Okay.
Thank you, Joseph. Marlon Ramos, last question.
Sir, Soljan, just a clarification. Again, yung mga tanong po kanina. So, who is the final arbiter of the Constitution? I think the operative word there is final.
The final arbiter of the Constitution
Our laws.
under our law is the Supreme Court.
Okay, thank you, Marlon. Thank you, Solicitor General Jose Calida, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella.
Okay, thank you.
He needs to go. Good morning. We continue to look at the Philippine socioeconomic political landscape and note that based on evidence, global business seems to be affirming the administration's aggressive efforts on nation building. Asia Business Outlook survey for 2017 showed that based on survey results, 39.4% of respondents said that they will increase investment against just 4.3% who said that they will reduce levels. The Duterte administration's economic pronouncements appear to be clear and consistent and want to achieve an economic growth that's not only robust and sustainable, but actually inclusive for more Filipinos. Also, the Department of Education is set to release 977 million hardship allowance for teachers. Teachers assigned to multi-grade classes, mobile teachers, and alternative learning systems, coordinators are set to receive their respective special hardship allowances amounting to 405,405,080. After the Department of Education, Secretary Lingling Briones approved on Wednesday, January 18. Filipinos now have access also to an improved and widened radial road, or R10, which they may opt to use as an alternate route to EDSA via Bonifacio Drive and Ross Boulevard in traveling from north to south and vice versa. We're open to questions.
Okay, question MPC. May follow-up question sa statement or other issue? Other issue? Whom? Henry Uri,
Yes,
DZRH.
Sir, yung tungkol lang dun sa 977 million hardship allowances ng mga teachers, can you please elaborate it?
I can read some notes. Okay. The incoming SHA covers a total of 14,896 recipient schools for teachers assigned in hardship posts and multi-grade classes, and 2,395 recipient school districts and community learning centers, CLSCs, or for mobile and ALS teachers. The allowance of teachers assigned in hardship posts is computed based on the distance from the nearest point of available transport, which corresponds to a certain percentage of their basic salary. Hardship posts include schools with transport inaccessibility, as well as those that are in difficult situations, such as exposure to calamities and armed conflicts. Computation of the allowance for multi-grade, mobile, and ALS coordinators are based on the number of classes or learning levels that the teachers handle.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Marlon Ramos.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Secretary. Sir, kahapon, the President sent a personal letter to the Pope.
Yes.
But apparently a few hours after, he taunted some Catholic bishops to try and use illegal drugs to see for themselves kung anong effect nun sa isang tao. Sir, what do you make of that remark or statement of the President?
I'm not
Regarding
aware
the-
of that taunting, but regarding the letter, I think it touched on it was an appreciation of gratitude. It was an expression of gratitude for the Pope's visit in 2015, I believe. Yes.
But regarding dun sa the President's remarks regarding the bishops, do you have any
I don't have the
clarification
context of
on
it.
that?
We can get a clarification on that.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Joseph Morong, GMA7.
Sir, yung meeting lang po later sa mga governors, how many are we expecting? And he did say yesterday na sasabihan niya yung mga governors na if you don't stop, I have no choice but to kill you again. And ano bang inihintay niyang actions from the governors? Those who are involved and those who are not involved.
Basically, it's a small gathering just to apprise local chief executives on the gravity of illegal drugs. Basically, it's going to be a conversation regarding the proliferation of illegal drugs.
How many are we expecting, sir?
We don't have the exact number.
Pero sir, what does he expect from the governors? I mean, of course, hindi ka naman papatawag ng meeting without any expectation of an action from the governors.
I suppose cooperation. Cooperation in terms of making sure that the fight against crime, corruption, and illegal drugs proceeds.
Okay, thank you, Joseph. Follow-up sa governors? Other issue. Follow-up, Marlon Ramos.
Just on the martial law issue.
Regarding martial law.
If I remember it right, sir, it was the President himself who started all these talks about martial law. Do you have any idea why the President brought up this issue? Because it was not, it was unprovoked. The media did not ask him about it. It was him who discussed it several times during his speeches.
If you're asking me if I know why, he said that I do not know why specifically, but based on his past, based on the issues that he has addressed, he perceives and he sees, and based on results, that he's the length and breadth and depth of illegal drugs is apparently massive. So it's a way of expressing the intensity and the need to be able to confront it. And again, as the Solicitor General said, he is stating this that he could, but he will not. In other words, he's simply addressing the enormity. It's a graphic way of addressing the enormity of the drug problem.
Did the President mention or even discuss this during one of the cabinet meetings? Yeah?
No, it was never discussed.
Okay, thank you, Marlon. AC, CNN Philippines, to be followed by Pia Ranado.
Yes, miss.
Hi, sir. Can we just get your reaction on something that Trump's nominee for as UN ambassador, when she was asked about the alleged extrajudicial killings here in the country, she did say that she believes that the alleged EJKs violate basic human rights, and that she will speak up about it in the UN. Can we get your reaction?
That is a very recent statement, and perhaps it's also best to just clarify that we do not have EJKs. We have, it's best, I think, to just refer to it as extra-legal killings. Regarding that, her statement, we'll just simply have to listen first to what she says and respond per statement.
Okay, thank you, AC. Pia.
Sir, earlier you concluded that when President Duterte talks about martial law, he's stating that he could but he will not. But in the same speech, he also often says he will if he wants to. So how do you reconcile those two?
Yeah, he said he will if he wants to, but he will not. He could if he.
No, but he's creating a scenario if in the future he might want to. And then he even said yesterday that the ISIS problem is a possible reason for him to declare martial law. So as much as he also says he won't, how can you reconcile the fact that immediately after he says he will if he wants to and nobody can stop him?
Again, let me just state what Soljan said. He is reiterating the fact that it is his prerogative. He could. But given the circumstances right now, he will not.
So, sir, he can in the future. He will in the future if he wants to.
If the conditions demand it.
Okay, thank you, Pia. Ted Tuvera.
Sir, good afternoon po.
Yes,
Kasi sir, paulit-ulit nga po na binabanggit yung sa martial law. Sir, is it really necessary for the President to dangle martial law in confronting criminals and... Yeah.
Is it really necessary to that? From his perspective, apparently it is. From his perspective, apparently it's necessary to frame it that way. But again, he has said that if conditions are right, it could happen, but he will not. Okay, he is simply saying that at this stage he will not. In other words, he's reiterating his position that he is protector of the country. He is after the protection of the people, of the community, especially the youth.
But is he aware of the implications it gives to the people, perhaps sowing fear, knowing martial law?
Regarding sowing fear, I suppose the best answer I could say that is that to those who are concerned, it may cause fear, but for those who are not. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Malacañang Press Corps. Thank you. May question?
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Presidential Spokesperson Ernesto Abella. Thank you, Solicitor General Jose Calida. Thank you, Malacañang Press Corps. Back to our main studio sa Radyo ng Bayan at PTV 4.